You know what? Give that man his money. At least, that's what I'm thinking about. And we have had this discussion at various points over the past few months about one of the top Montreal Canadiens young guys that we have seen in years. He is a total stud, a superstar of the now. Screw a superstar in the making. Nah. He's already there, man. He's a top-line defenseman, man. He is a #1 power play quarterback, man. There are few in the National Hockey League who can walk a blue line and dance on the power play like he can. Today we're talking about Lane Hutson and the apparent revealed contract projection that was broadcasted to us on the interwebs via the folks on AFP Analytics. What I wanted to do in this video was dive into the numbers, just talk about what possibilities there are, and debate amongst ourselves whether or not these numbers are appropriate, ask the question as to whether or not you would pay them, and also ask the question as to whether or not you think the Montreal Canadiens would pay these numbers. So, without further ado, let's give a big shout out over to the folks on AFP Analytics. They've been doing a lot of these contract projections using a lot of the numbers and the models and comparative features they have. It's a very easy to understand look as to how some players could get contracts that they get. They're not always accurate, and that's the disclaimer here. They are never going to be 100% accurate. Sometimes guys sign for less than what the AFP Analytics model projects they should sign for, and vice versa. Sometimes they sign for more. So none of these numbers should be taken as absolute gospel, but for the sake of making a fun YouTube video, let's go out there and dive into Lane Hutson, everybody. Because yesterday, NHL Watcher went out there and tweeted that Montreal sports media is talking about giving Lane Hutson an 8x10. 8 years, $10 million a year. Honestly, if you're just going to go off of that idea, I buy it. I don't disagree. I like it. I think that with the cap rising up, and with some of these other D-men in the NHL making the amount of money that they're making, maybe aside Quinn Hughes, a lot of these guys are in similar dollar amount ranges. I mean, if you read sporttrack.com, you'll see that the highest paid NHL D-men are Erik Karlsson, Drew Doughty, and Rasmus Dahlin, each making over $10 million. But then right around the $9-10-ish million range, you've got Werenski, Adam Fox, McAvoy, Seth Jones, Darnell Nurse, Roman Josi, and Cale Makar. Yeah, spare Quinn Hughes, who's making 7 point something. He's not on this list because he's a little bit further down there. But a lot of these guys are in that same dollar amount range. And I get it. You could say, hey, Lane Hutson, $10 million? You want this guy to be making more money than Cale Makar? More money than Roman Josi? More money than Zach Werenski? Well, when you think about when those contracts that we looked at were signed and what the cap ceiling was like when Werenski and all these other guys got their deals, the cap wasn't projected to be going as high as it is right now in the next few years of NHL play. So with that in mind, Lane Hutson, if you wanted to talk about percentage of the cap, him getting $10 million is not that bad in my opinion, especially when you consider him in that same territory of that kind of defenseman. Now, all lollygagging aside, let's go over to AFP Analytics because they actually responded to NHL Watcher's tweet about Hutson getting an 8x10. They said, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. They tweeted out 2 graphics. First is a Lane Hutson 7-year contract extension, where they're projecting him to be getting upwards of $10.28 million a year. The cap hit percentage is 9.89%, assuming the salary cap that we've got right now. And when you look at the bottom, you'll see contract comparables for Lane Hutson on this particular deal, if it were to be signed. You can see that the top comparisons there are Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Chabot, Quinn Hughes, and Owen Power. Now, you can see those contracts and the AAVs and the cap hit percentage too. When Cale Makar signed his $9 million deal, it was worth a much higher percentage of the cap than what a $10.2 million contract would be for Lane Hutson today. which plays into the percentage of the cap argument that we were just talking about. Lane making 10.2 for the next 7 years doesn't seem like that bad of an idea, although of course you would prefer 8. But instead, if you wanted to say, hey, what if we gave Lane Hutson a bridge deal instead? That is not something that I think any Canadiens fan would want to see, but let's just assume the hypotheticals, because it was posted about here too. AFP posted a second graphic of a Lane Hutson contract projection, this time with the length of the deal being 3 years long. They have Hutson projected at a $6.89 million AAV should he get a 3-year extension. And the only two comparable players and contracts that are listed are the 3-year Buffalo Rasmus Dahlin deals, as well as the Mikhail Sergachev deals. Those two are the only comparables that actually exist in this capacity, and you can see that when they had signed those shorter-term extensions, the percentage of the cap was roughly the same. Dahlin was making $6 million, Sergachev was making $4 million, 4.8. So that is kind of the territory that you could see Hutson approaching if you only wanted to give him a bridge deal, although, of course, I mean, Habs fans would not want to see that at all. Think about it, $6.8 million, sure, you're getting a steal of a contract for a guy in Hutson who is a number 1 defenseman in the NHL. Let's say he gets 70 points next year. Hey, that's fantastic. He'll get such a good amount of production for the dollar amount he'll be providing. But with the cap going up and Hutson getting better over the years, this will be like Quinn Hughes all over again, except in Montreal compared to Vancouver this time. It would be the exact same song and dance, and ultimately I don't want to see that happen to the Montreal Canadiens, where Habs fans in 3 years or 4 years are thinking, hey, we gotta keep Lane Hutson around. He's going to get $15 million, because at that point he might have even won a Norris by then, and then he's going to get a contract extension. Quinn Hughes is already approaching that conversation territory here in Vancouver. A lot of people are saying, hey, give him literally the max deal possible because he's that good and he's that important. Lane could warrant that same kind of conversation if everything goes right for him, and at this point there's no reason to assume that it won't. He's that good after all. So ultimately, thinking about what Lane Hutson could be, just knowing what he is right now and projecting that into the future, it's like, yeah, give him as much money as it takes to get him on an 8-year deal, preferably not 7, we want 8, and see him making 10, 10.2, 10 point something, 11 even, million dollars against the cap. Even 11, I don't think is unreasonable when you consider just the level of dominance that this guy has. He is so good already that even the AFP analytical model can't really fully live up to the expectations that Habs fans have for this guy. I mean, it's not that big of a hot take to say, hey, no, pay him $11 million instead of 10. Maybe earlier on in the year we were discussing an $11 million kind of thing, but that was before Hutson totally took control of the team's power play in the playoffs, and we saw the chemistry that he had with Demidov and Suzuki and everybody else. I mean, just that short little vision that we saw, that sample size of what could be in Montreal with the playoffs against Washington, that right there, that is super, super engaging, and ultimately does provide the biggest level of hope, and thus the biggest justifiable reason to give Lane Hutson however much gosh darn money that he wants. So with that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about these revealed Lane Hutson contract projections? What are your thoughts on $10.2 million by 7 years? What are your thoughts on $6.8 million over 3 years? Which one do you think is more appropriate for the Canadiens, short-term, long-term, and what adjustments would you make on these deals? Let me know in the comment section all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.